Hi everyone, it's Casey Williams. So I was thinking a lot this week about one of the first cars I test drove back in 2000. It was the first generation Honda Insight. It was that short, stubby little car with the fender spats on the back. It looked like a vision of the future, especially coming after the GM EV1 at about the same time. You know, it didn't handle very well, it had the interior space of a smart car, and it was just horribly underpowered on the highway. But it did get almost 60 miles per gallon, and it, alongside the Toyota Prius, really opened the door for hybrids in the United States. Well, here we are on the third generation Honda Insight. It's a totally different car, more like a Honda Accord than an Insight, and just so advanced. It really is the car of the future that was promised so long ago. Let's go have a look at it. Well, unlike with the first generation Insight, I doubt many people this week as I was driving around town even knew I was driving something special. I mean, if you look at the inside, it looks just like what it is. It's a car that fits in size between the Civic and the Accord, although it's really based on the Civic platform. You know, it has Honda's trademark grille in the front, the chrome brow, LED headlamps. This is the Touring Edition, so it kind of has more of a sportier stance to it. And the running lamps down below. I think it looks pretty good. Come around the side, again, that long drawn out roof line that's become a trademark of the Accord and the Civic, of course. Looks like a Honda. 17-inch alloy wheels. I really do like kind of the detailing of this. I think it just looks very streamlined, very aerodynamic. Some nice body sculpting, both in the front fenders and here as well. Just adds a little detail and interest to the car, so it's not totally flat-sided. Come around the back, kind of has this fastback effect to it, with the pillar wraps right into the trunk lid, right above the tail lamps, LED light tubes in the back. And of course, being the touring model, I got the chrome down below as well. So it looks pretty expensive. I think, you know, almost looks like an Acura in the total design of it. Well, not all that long ago, if you got a hybrid, you could forget about putting the back seats down, because you had the battery pack stored between the trunk and the rear seats. Well, obviously this car, it's not a problem. It's got 60-40 split rear seats, they go down, plenty of space. You get a bicycle in, get your gear in, whatever you need to haul. Of course, being a hybrid, we're only going to see half of the powertrain underneath the hood of the Insight. The rest of it is a lithium-ion battery pack that's stored in the back of the car. But back up here in front, we have a 1.5-liter four-cylinder engine, connects to a continuously variable transmission, and it routes 151 horsepower to the front wheels. But the reason for buying, a hybrid is not all-out power. It's more about fuel economy. And being a hybrid, you're going to get better fuel economy in town than on the highway. So Honda claims 51 miles per gallon in the city and 45 miles per gallon on the highway. I drove the car about 4.5–5 hours on the interstate, admittedly running above the speed limit, but I was seeing more like 37 miles per gallon. So I think driven reasonably, you should expect to see 37 to 40 miles per gallon out on the highway. But still, that's really decent fuel economy for what's essentially a mid-sized car. And talk about the fuel economy just for reference, that's right between what you'd see for a Toyota Prius and like a Chevy Malibu hybrid. And that stands to reason because this car in size is right between those two cars. So all in, you've got a pretty efficient car and enough power to get the car down the road. I just kept thinking all week how different the interior of this car is than that first generation Insight I drove. I mean, that car was really basic. It had a pretty cool digital instrument cluster, but again, a smart car was a more comfortable, more luxurious car than what that Insight ever thought about being. But when you see the interior of this car, it would absolutely not be out of place inside of an Acura or another luxury car. It just looks very nice. It looks exactly what you expect, an advanced 21st century sedan to look like. And it's a nice combination of electronics and craftsmanship. I like the soft padding here on the dash, the two-tone, the stitched effect. The seats are really nice and deeply bolstered and very comfortable. These are actually heated. So I think it's just, really nice. And the deep console and the way this is designed, it just looks very nice. I like the way the gear selectors are. It's all push button and it takes you a few minutes to get used to it. But once you do, works really nice and just looks very cool here in the dashboard. The touchscreen, I'm not a big fan of Honda's touchscreens. They've tried about 2 or 3 different ones in the last several years. At least we don't have the two screen arrangement that I really, really despised from before. They put a volume knob on it, but it's like they just can't get a tuning knob on it. It's like it's too difficult to put a tuning knob over here, so we get this little button where you flip it back and forth, and you can swipe it, but it's not entirely intuitive. And it's just like they've had enough time to get this right, and they need to really get this fixed. It works okay. If you owned it, you wouldn't be miserable with it, but I just think there's still some room for improvement here. But once you do figure it out, it controls quite a bit. The car has Wi-Fi, you've got Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's got navigation, it's got the up-level sound system, and it's got a 10-speaker audio system in it. So once you kind of figure that out, it's really nice. Dual zone automatic climate control down below. Like I said, heated seats for both front seats. USBs, power, for your devices down below. Also really nice. Really like the leather-wrapped steering wheel. It does have a flat screen instrument cluster. It's actually got needles, but you can reconfigure it a little bit. So I think that works out really well. This car has a sunroof, of course. So very nice. It's also absolutely loaded with safety systems. So it has adaptive cruise control, forward collision crash mitigation, it'll auto brake, it'll slow down if you don't apply the brakes, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, rear cross traffic alert, blind spot warning, and it's also got Honda's lane watch system. So you turn the turn signal on, there's a camera over on the passenger side that puts an image here so you can see through your blind spot, like quite literally with a camera. So overall, it's a really nice car, plenty of space for 4 people in this car, and a pretty comfortable place to be. Well, one thing has drastically changed over the last 18 years is the power and handle dynamics of this car versus the first generation Insight. I mean, this has a 4-wheel independent suspension. It's basically based on the Civic architecture, so it's an absolutely world-class, compact car to begin with. And like I said, the car produces 151 horsepower. It's a combination of the 1.5-liter 4-cylinder engine and the lithium-ion battery packs. So you kind of get off the line and get moving with the battery, which is nice. It's smooth, quiet, and a little bit of torque. But the thing that I really, and it's got plenty of power for driving around town for sure, and it's got plenty of power for cruising on the highway. But what I noticed on the highway is you're driving, let's just say you're driving 80 miles per hour, and you step into accelerate a little bit, there's just absolutely nothing left. There's a truck behind you, there's a car coming up behind you. I can imagine driving through the mountains, just no power left. But that's kind of part of what you're going to have to deal with in this car. The reason you buy this car, again, 51 miles per gallon in the city, 45 miles per gallon on the highway. So you can definitely get the fuel economy that comes along with this car. But some other things I really like, you get on the road, spend a little time in it. The seats are comfortable. I like the steering wheel. I like the size of the car. I think it's just the right size car. It's not too big. It's not too little. It feels pretty substantial when you're out on the highway moving along. The controls work okay. Again, I don't like the touchscreen, but that's all right. And there's a couple other features this car has I think work out really nice. It's got Econ mode, which makes the throttle less sensitive, so you get a little better fuel economy with it. There's an EV mode, so in some low-speed, certain circumstances, it will drive just in EV mode, but that's pretty limited. This car is not a plug-in, it's not designed to be an EV, but there are some modes where you can kind of hold that in. It's got paddles, so you can control the regenerative braking. So you can adjust it so it's a little more aggressive or a little less aggressive, however you want to recharge the batteries. And then it's got a sport mode that makes the throttle a little more sensitive and also pipes in a lot more noise. So I find that kind of interesting. It's really a fake sound. And this car has a continuously variable transmission, so it sounds like a high-powered weed eater anyway. And pressing the sport mode just kind of amplifies the high-powered weed eater sound inside of it. I guess it takes it from weed eater to a blender, but it's kind of cool. It sounds like it's revving up a little bit, so that's all right. But the one other thing I thought was just really impressive about this car, I was on the highway, again, for a couple hours at a time, and the safety systems, the adaptive cruise, are really phenomenal. I mean, they're almost on par with the Mercedes S-Class. So it's got adaptive cruise control, which means it's got radar, it keeps a safe distance on the highway. It's got lane keep assist, and then it's also got a self-centering system, lane centering system, that actually works around curves too. So you have to keep your hands on the wheel, at least lightly, kind of down below on the wheel. But the car will keep a safe speed, it'll back itself off if it approaches another car on the highway, and it will even steer around corners. So for 2 hours on the highway, I basically sat here just kind of keeping one hand lightly on the wheel, changing lanes when I needed to, and letting the car pretty much drive itself for 2 hours. We went into a construction zone, as traffic slowed down, the car automatically slowed down, went through the zone, came out of the traffic zone, the car just automatically just sped right up and took off. So it's just a really peaceful, comfortable drive in the car. And the fact that you can get all that's in this car for the price of it is pretty impressive. If you could have said that 18 years ago, that you're going to have that much car for the dollars, I think you've been pretty amazed. So overall, pretty nice car to drive, a pretty advanced car, and a lot of value for the dollar. Boy, has the Honda Insight changed a lot over the last 18 years. It's gone from a fuel-efficient toy into, at least in the touring trim, really a luxury car you can drive anywhere with 4 people aboard and all their luggage. It's practical, the interior is luxurious, it's comfortable, lots of safety gear that was even unimaginable 18 years ago. And it's just a really pleasant car to be in. It's not as powerful as it might need to be out on the interstate or when you really want to go through the mountains with it, but that 51 miles per gallon in the city is pretty nice to think about. So let's talk about price. Well, this car starts under $23,000. That's really affordable for what this thing is. This one, fully equipped as it is, $28,090. So comfortably under 30 grand with a car with that you could almost not want anything else in. Well, next week we'll have another fun car, and until then, storm forward.